that is problematic for us to operate as a civil society?
Well, the first thing that I look at is the date of the tapes. It's remarkable that we are pulling tapes that you've gone into the archives and we are looking at the year 2000. I think people are entitled to evolve their thoughts over 18 years. The second thing that I think is quite remarkable here is that we're talking about racial division and what sows racial division. I think the fact that every time I'm invited onto this network, I'm being asked to dispute another black person. The black community is broken up in general, and I don't want to partake in any of that. We're just ending a weekend where 71 black people were shot in Chicago, 13 of them killed, and we're not talking about that. Instead, we're talking about old tapes.
We're going to talk about all that. You have a problem?
No, we're not. I have a problem that we're doing wall-to-wall coverage on two
with who you're
tapes that
appearing
are
on this.
No, I don't have a problem with
Candace,
him.
you have a problem with who you're appearing on this segment with?
No, I'm actually respectfully saying to him that we should both decline tearing apart the black community for the sake of television. And because MSNBC always invites me on to do that, I am declining to do so when our community is mourning the 71 people that were shot over the weekend. We need to stop this warfare and come together and talk about things that matter. And what is going on in Chicago is a bigger topic and should be a bigger topic on this network than what Trump said 18 years ago and whether or not it means that people change over 18 years, which, shocker guys, they do.
Well, I'm going to have the professor respond, but I have to respond on behalf of myself. You knew what you were invited to discuss, and we're happy you're here. It's very important to me in this show that we have these conversations and invite a lot of people of all perspectives. If there's a problem with that, I think you knew what the invite was to begin with. Professor Dyson, your thoughts?
Well, look, we're dealing with a person who has not only radically emboldened the prospects of bigotry in this country, the resurgent, recrudescent hate that he has articulated. If you can't beat him, coin him. So he opposes Pat Buchanan on the one hand when it's to his own political advantage, and then subsequently when the real beliefs emerge from Mr. Trump, we see that his vicious animus toward black people, gay people, Mexicans, Muslims, women, and the like is a kind of cornucopia of hate that has been brashly articulated by a man of manifest lack of serious coherence, chaotic intelligence, and the lack of an ability to really express himself by not only pulling upon the strands of history, but refusing to take into consideration what's going on today. So I think in one sense, if we're going to talk about if we're going to be honest about Donald Trump, he has not helped black people. He has not enabled African-American people to move forward. He's riding a crest and a wave of economic prosperity put in place by his predecessor, Barack Obama. He has refused to acknowledge the centrality of police brutality and unarmed black people being assaulted by people in this country. So the reality is that Donald Trump, while claiming through rhetoric to be for the blacks, what he has done is undermine the capacity of African-American people to exist in a country where it's not only about the economic facts and the wherewithal that we contend with, it is about the tone, it is about the rhetoric, it is about the atmosphere that has been unleashed here. And Donald Trump has done something very dangerous and destructive. He can't see the difference between an anti-fascist and a person who supports it. He can't see the difference between somebody who's against black people and who is for them. So when he draws false equivalencies between both sides, he negates the ability to say, look, I believe in rational civil discourse in America, but I take a side morally and politically. We are now 53 years to the date.
For a quick second.
53 years, let me finish this. 53 years beyond the date of the voting. Let me finish this.
We'll go to the professor and then we'll go back to you, Candace. Professor Dyson, you can finish and then we'll go back to Candace.
Here we are 53 years past the Voting Rights Act. We've seen the resurgence of an attempt to nullify and destroy that black vote. We've seen attempts to somehow circumnavigate around black political citizenry and agency. So all I'm saying is, if we're concerned about black people, we got to be concerned about poverty, inequality, lack of access to education, plus the kinds of sorts of violence that we see directed toward black people in this country.
Candace, go ahead. Sorts of violence as being directed towards black people. Am I black? I'm curious if I'm black because I'm a black conservative and I am not hearing anything that is said about the fact that about 25 white Democrats assembled to kick me out of a restaurant yesterday to throw water and to throw eggs at me because I am a conservative that supports Donald Trump. The very same Donald Trump, okay? The very same Donald Trump that has not Obama. Obama did not do this. It's because President Trump has been slashing regulations and it has brought this economy to a place it has never been at, okay? We have unemployment that's an all-time low for both women. You brought up women, you brought up gays, you brought up black people. Unemployment is at an all-time low across the board. You guys refuse to acknowledge the truth that we are doing better. You want to talk about fascists? Antifa attacked me. This is an all-white gang that attacked me and attacked an all-black police force in Philadelphia, okay? And they claim to be fighting racism. How is it plausible, Professor, that you allow this to happen to your community because you've decided that because we are ideologically conservatives, you are okay with this? You're okay with the resurgence of the Democrats?
I haven't said a word.
Don't cut me off.
I haven't said a word.
You just said a lot of words.
I didn't say a word.
Actually, if somebody was counting,
I said nothing about you.
Now you're cutting me off.
I said nothing about you.
No.
So I find what happened to you reprehensible, by the way.
I still have to keep it going. Candace, we're going to take a pause. Candace,
I didn't get to finish. You just went on for 5 minutes straight. You are attacking your argument that you just made.
But if you're calling out the professor, I have to give him time. So Candace, go ahead.
Liberals have been attacking conservatives, and you guys say nothing about it. Blacks were attacked yesterday, okay? And they were attacked because they support Donald Trump. Black support for Donald Trump has doubled since this time last year. You guys can try to pretend that he is pushing in a racist era in this country when, in fact, we know the Democrats are the racists, have always been the racists. The parties never switched, and you should know this as a civil rights person. You know the history. You know the people under the hood of the KKK.
Let me respond.
Were
Candace,
Democrats, and the party never switched. And
Candace, I'm going to give the professor a chance to respond.
You should defend what happened to me yesterday and defend our community being attacked because we support Donald Trump, because we understand that we have better economic opportunities under him than we ever had in Obama.
And
shame on you for crediting in Obama.
Candace, I'm going to give the professor a chance to respond.
Under his administration, he allowed the bloodshed, and Trump wanted to send the National Guard, and the Democrats stopped him. I'm really done with this. I'm done with this racist narrative.
I don't want to have to talk over people, but we have to go back and forth.
Let's talk about the facts.
Candace, we're going to have to take a pause there. Couple things. You're making a personal attack on the other guests, so I have to give them a chance to respond.
Let me respond. First of all,
I also have to say, and Professor, I'm going to go back to you. I also have to say the topic of this discussion that we have tried and perhaps are failing on live television to discuss is Trump policy. The incident that you're referring to yesterday is not necessarily this topic.
It's a Democrat policy.
And so we'd have to gather more information.
Go up to them.
So I'm going to go to the professor. Professor, you get a chance to respond, sir.
First of all, I never said anything about Ms. Owens. I never directed any animus, any particular rhetoric, any conversation toward her. So first of all, when she say you allowed it, first of all, I'm not God. I don't control the universe or weather. I don't control the atmosphere, geology, or geography. So I did not point these people toward you. I think it's reprehensible that any human being is, if you will, put out of a particular establishment because of her ideology. I think that that's problematic. So I did not suggest that. Number two, yeah, you are black and I am black. But that doesn't mean that automatically we agree with everything.
Of
course not.
We should
Let me finish.
One another.
Now, what I'm saying to you is that when you talk about me as disrespectful, here's what's interesting to me. You have come on here and, like Donald Trump, reduce everything to narcissistic self-preoccupation and articulation of your. Let me finish. What you're saying here. So now, what happens to Black America happens to you. So Black people are reduced to what? Can you, Ari? Can I finish my point? I didn't jump on her.
Can
I finish my point?